Today on Sugar Spun Run, I'll be showing you how to make a Tres Leches cake. Hey everyone, Sam here, and today I'm very excited to show you how to make a Tres Leches cake. Hopefully I'm saying that right. I'm trying my best. This cake is really pretty simple to make. It's a sponge cake, really light and fluffy, and we're going to be soaking it in 3 different kinds of milk, or Tres Leches. Again, hopefully I'm pronouncing that okay. Nobody gets on me in the comments. We'll see. All right, so the first thing that you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, you are going to need 5 large eggs. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna be separating these eggs. You're gonna want your whites in one bowl and your yolks in another. You're going to need both parts. Now the easiest way that I've found to separate egg whites and yolks is you just wanna break the shell in half, get a nice clean break, and then just kind of pass the yolk back and forth and catch it with either half. That white is gonna fall through into your whites container, and then you can just place the yolk in your other measuring cup or bowl that you have. Now, after separating each egg, I like to take the white and pour it into the container that I'm going to be using it in. So I have here a very clean, grease-free bowl. This is where we're gonna be whipping our egg whites. So I'm gonna just pour the egg white in there, and then we're going to repeat the steps with the rest of our eggs. We're going to be whipping these egg whites to stiff peaks, so it is so important that we do not get any bit of yolk in with egg whites. That's why after I break each egg, I'm gonna go ahead and pour the white into my new clean bowl. That way, if I'm separating an egg and I get a little bit of yolk in there, it's not gonna contaminate all of the whites I've already broken. Otherwise, you're gonna end up very frustrated. You're gonna waste a lot of eggs that way. So here's a fun fact. Sometimes people see a little bit of red in my eggs and they think I'm eating baby chickens or fertilized eggs. Let me tell you, that is not the case. All of my eggs come fresh from my parents' chickens. We have no roosters over there, so we're definitely not eating baby chicks. Usually if there's a little bit of red, it's because the chicken might be a new layer, it might be a little bit stressed out. It's not a baby chicken, it's perfectly safe to eat, but you can always fish out the imperfections if you want. You don't usually see this in grocery store eggs because they go through a process called candling, where any eggs that have that red or that imperfection are taken out, usually given to bakeries or restaurants to use. They're just usually not given to consumers, but there's nothing wrong with it. Now don't get rid of those egg yolks, you're going to need them in a bit, but for now we're just gonna focus on our whites. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna beat these to stiff peaks. You're going to want to use an electric mixer, and we're gonna start by just beating these egg whites on low speed until they're foamy, and then we'll gradually increase the speed to high. Now today's recipe calls for 2 cups of sugar, but you're going to want to divide that. We're gonna start with 1 of our cups of sugar, and once your mixer is on high speed, we're going to add about 2 tablespoons of this at a time to our egg white mixture. Now after each addition, you're going to want to stir until the sugar is dissolved. This is usually about 10 seconds with your mixer on high speed, and then you're going to want to add another 2 tablespoons and just repeat that until all of your sugar has been added. Now we're just going to continue to beat this on high speed until we have a nice, thick, glossy meringue. And yes, this is going to take a couple minutes. You're going to get a little bit bored of beating everything together. If you have a stand mixer, it's going to make the job a lot faster and easier for you. Now once you reach stiff, glossy peaks, you can see I've got stiff peaks here. They're not folding over on themselves. Then you can stop beating your egg whites so you have a nice meringue here. We're gonna set that aside and move on. One thing I did wanna note, if you have a stand mixer, it's gonna make things a lot faster. As I mentioned, I've been beating this for about 8 minutes. Part of that is because this hand mixer is a little bit weak. I love it because it's pretty and it's my favorite color, but I'm gonna go ahead and link to my actual favorite hand mixer. It's a real powerhouse and it's less expensive than this one in the description below. So once your egg whites are nice and beaten, you're going to need a separate bowl. You want this one to be nice size, nice and clean, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. To our new bowl, we're going to add 1/2 cup or 1 stick of softened unsalted butter. And we're also going to add our remaining 1 cup of sugar. Remember, we added 1 cup in with our egg whites. We have 1 cup left. This goes in now. And you're going to beat the butter and sugar together until they're creamy and well combined. And I'm just gonna be using my same mixer. It's got a little bit of egg white on it still. In the grand scheme of things, it's not gonna matter. You can clean them if you want. I'm not that ambitious. Grab your egg yolks, and we're gonna add these one at a time, stirring after each addition. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull that off. Well, aim for adding one at a time. We're going to just go for 2 this time. Don't worry, everything is going to be just fine. We'll add our vanilla at this point. You need 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Now you're going to need another bowl, and you're going to need 2 cups of all-purpose flour. And yes, I know this recipe generates a lot of dishes, it's a lot of steps, but it is so worth it. Of course, that's also very easy for me to say because I know when I'm done filming, my husband is gonna wash all my dishes, so. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder and just a teaspoon of salt, and just stir everything together until these dry ingredients are nicely combined. Now bring back your butter and egg yolk mixture, and you're also at this point going to need 1 cup of whole milk. We're just gonna alternate adding our flour mixture and our milk to our butter mixture. I'm gonna add about 1/4 of each of these at a time, and we're gonna stir well after each addition. Now at this point, I don't like to use my stand mixer anymore. I like to do everything by hand. You don't wanna overbeat these ingredients. We want a light sponge cake. If you do everything with a mixer, you could end up making things too dense. So those of you not familiar with Tres Leches Cake, Tres Leches Cake might not know that this milk is actually not considered one of the 3 milks that we're using. Those milks come after we've baked our cake, and they're what we're gonna pour over our cake. At this point, all that's left to do for our cake portion is we're going to be adding our egg whites into our flour mixture, and we're gonna be folding those in. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that everything in this bowl is not going to fit into this bowl, and my husband's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna need another bowl. Have a little bit of foresight. Just start with a larger bowl when you're mixing your butter and your egg yolks together. I always add my egg whites all at once. Now use your spatula to just fold those egg whites into the rest of your batter. Now you want to use a pretty gentle hand when doing this. You don't want to completely deflate your egg whites. You don't want to beat them really bad. You definitely don't want to use your electric mixer at this point, but you do want everything to be nicely combined. Can you imagine if I tried to do all of this in those little bowls? Now when you're stirring this, you might notice that the egg whites seem to clump up in little balls. You want to make sure you kind of smash those against the side and work those into the batter. Otherwise, when you cut into your cake, you're going to have sections that are just egg white in there. You don't want that. You really want to make sure everything's completely combined and you have a pretty smooth batter. Again, you don't want to overmix this. You don't want to just beat the heck out of it, but you do want everything to be nicely combined. And like I said, a pretty smooth batter. Now you're going to want a 13×9 baking dish. I usually use a glass baking dish, and you're going to want to just spray this with baking spray. Make sure it's one that uses flour so your cake doesn't stick. And we're just gonna pour our batter into our baking dish. Let's take this over to our 350° Fahrenheit preheated oven, where it'll need to bake for about 40 to 50 minutes. It'll be a nice golden brown color on top when it's finished. So once this cake is finished baking, you're going to want to let it cool. I'll usually let mine sit for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then we're gonna poke holes all over it. You can use a wooden skewer. I just like to use a fork. We're just gonna pierce this cake all over. This is just going to help make it so that once we pour our 3 milks over the cake, it's going to make sure that all the milk gets nicely absorbed. Now let's go ahead and make that 3 milk or tres leches, however you say it, mixture. We're going to start with 14 ounces of sweetened condensed milk. You want to get all of that condensed milk in your bowl. You are also going to need a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. and a half cup of heavy cream. Some recipes do use milk instead of heavy cream. I really prefer using the cream. I like the consistency that it adds. It doesn't make things too soupy or too soggy, so I use heavy cream. And I also like to add just a half teaspoon of vanilla extract for a little extra flavor. And now once you have everything in your bowl, I just like to use a whisk to stir everything together. You want to get all of these milks nicely combined, especially the condensed milk. That tends to sit on the bottom, and you want everything really well combined. Now we're just going to slowly and evenly pour this over our cake. I know it seems like a lot of liquid, and it is, but our cake is, our nice sponge cake is going to absorb all of this while it sits. Now this cake should sit for several hours, at least several hours, preferably overnight, to let it absorb all of those milks that we just added. So I'm just gonna cover this with plastic wrap. And we'll go ahead and transfer this to the fridge. Once your cake has had a few hours, or preferably overnight, to sit and absorb all that liquid, we're gonna go ahead and pull it out, and now we can make our whipped topping. Now you're going to need 1.5 cups of heavy cream for this, as well as a half cup of powdered sugar, and just a half teaspoon of vanilla extract. Now you are definitely going to want to use an electric mixer for this step. We're just going to beat everything together until you get stiff peaks. You're just stirring everything together on high speed until you get a Cool Whip consistency. But this is so much better than Cool Whip. This is looking pretty good. As you can see, it's got a nice full volume, a nice Cool Whip-like consistency, but better. So let's go ahead and pour this over our Tres Leches cake. This is looking and smelling so good. So we are pretty much done at this point. This last step is completely optional, but I like to add a little bit of ground cinnamon on top of my Tres Leches cake. Now you can absolutely 100% use that store-bought ground cinnamon and just sprinkle it over top, but I'm gonna be a little extra today, and I'm gonna grate some fresh cinnamon over my cake. And that is it. It smells amazing. I can't wait to dig in, so let's go ahead and cut ourselves a slice. And that is how you make Tres Leches cake. I might struggle to pronounce it, but I don't struggle to make it or to eat it. I really think you guys are gonna love this recipe. If you try it out, please let me know what you think. I love hearing from you. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. This cake, it is so moist, it's so full of flavor, and one of my favorite things is that it gets so much of that milk soaked in, but it's not soupy or soggy. I think you're gonna love this one. Hey, if you guys enjoyed today's Tres Leches cake, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, if you enjoyed today's recipe, here are a few others you might like as well. Who put that in there? And that is how you make Tres Leches. How do I say it?